and let us all do we can to build a better future. All right, people are compelled to vote third party. People are compelled to look at another option. And Dr. Cornell West even goes onto CNN and explains why he is not a spoiler and why Biden might drop out. And to tell you the truth, Biden, yeah, he's 81 years old. What more can he do? He became president after not one, but two failed runs for the presidency. Third time's a charm, I guess. He became president. Okay. Sail off into the sunset. So let's talk about this. Voters feeling compelled to vote third party.
Jesse, what about you? Would you support a third party candidate or consider supporting a third party candidate?
Would depend on who that candidate is. However, I don't think that a two-party system is working for America anymore.
And Terry, would you consider voting for a third party candidate?
I don't know. I don't know. I feel compelled to, but I really feel as though my vote will be just wasted. And my vote counts.
Shelley, what about you?
The power, yeah.
How do you see a third party?
As a dream, but not a reality.
Right.
I mean, in my ideal world, I see it as a party that is truly for the people, by the people. And I don't see people having that power, that respect.
Let me follow up with you on that, Jackie. Are you concerned that people are going to stay at home and not vote?
Now what the reporter from BSDNC is doing the oh so fantastic tactic of fear and be afraid. Oh no, third parties. Are you afraid people will stay home? At this point, I've been talking to a lot of people who've been saying, well, what's the point of voting? Because it doesn't matter. That's right. It's the whole idea of you got to vote because it matters. Yeah, that's all that goodwill is gone, because anytime there was a large turnout to vote, what was followed through? Did we get anything on our end for turning out to vote? Because again, voting theoretically is us exercising our power for the best candidate to get into office. However, money in politics is running amok. Money in politics dictates how policy is done here in this country, and the rich always seem to be getting everything, while the rest of us get screwed over. How wonderful. Isn't that a nightmare right there? So, yes, it is understandable why people would want to just stay home and not vote. Now, this is probably going to be my last election to vote. I haven't really decided whether I'll continue to humor the idea of it. If it comes down to citizen ballot initiatives, then I do give my promise to vote, because Illinois is a citizen ballot initiative state. But I intend to exercise my vote the way I see fit. And so far, this election cycle has shown me that not only have things not changed, but we're going to see 2020 repeat itself. The only spark of hope that I do see is that maybe third-party candidates could make it to the debate stage to be front and center.
In 2024, what are you hearing from the community around you?
Pretty much of what I said, that they're not enthusiastic about either candidates, but they don't want one or the other to get in. So they're going to vote against someone more so than voting for someone.
So I want to pull up this video here. It's of Dr. Cornell West talking about how he might not be a spoiler. So let's play this.
Cornell West is running for president as an independent, and his candidacy is bringing with it concerns in the Democratic Party that he could actually end up taking enough votes away from Joe Biden to ensure a second Trump term. So what does Cornell West have to say about all of this? Well, he joins me now. So good to see you. I'm glad that you're joining the show this evening. You have undoubtedly heard all of the conversations surrounding this phrase of being a spoiler. You said you're not going to be a spoiler in the race, but there is some data from the 2016 election that shows, for example, Jill Stein actually a major.
Like, you're making Jill Stein into this big old villain. What I find insulting is that they refuse to acknowledge Gary Johnson, who got 3.3% of the vote. That's more than what Jill Stein got. She got 1.5% of the vote in 2016. So, this whole idea of Jill Stein stealing votes from Hillary Clinton. Okay, fine. Let's say Stein wasn't in the race at all. Well, number one, they would probably then blame Gary Johnson. Probably. I don't know how successful that would be. But also, number two, let's say all these Jill Stein voters, oh no, there's no Jill Stein. What's the guarantee that they would vote for Hillary? Or is it what's the did you not maybe take into account that maybe, just maybe, they would stay home? Because everyone remembers how the 2016 primary played out.
Major factor in Trump winning states like Michigan or Wisconsin and Pennsylvania over, say, Hillary Clinton. Tell me, why are you so sure that that's not going to be the case with your run as an independent?
No, well, first, I just want to thank you for being on the show and salute you. You got a wonderful show with fellow Princetonian that we all applaud you. But
Go Tigers. Thank you so much.
Brother Russ Neely, he was my teaching assistant. I know he was your thesis advisor as well.
Yes, he was.
He's a decent brother.
He was.
He's a very decent brother. But no, you and I know this is a very, very fluid moment. I'm not convinced that Brother Biden's even going to be the candidate for the Democratic Party. I think he's going to have an LBJ moment. I think he's going to end up pulling out. When you hear Axelrod and Carville and others, these are very influential folk calling for him to pull back. And even with Trump, given what we've just seen with Brother Rudy Giuliani, when you have that kind of criminality coming at you, that he might not even be the candidate. So we just don't know. The crucial thing is to be like Jane Austen, constancy. We have to be consistent in our critiques of empire, our critiques of organized greed, our critiques of institutionalized hatred, and try to elevate the discourse beyond hatred and revenge and greed, and really talk about truth and justice and love. We just got on the ballot in Alaska, and I'm very excited about this with the Aurora Party and Brother Mark Belkin and Sister Elizabeth Freeman. Meaning what? There's a hunger out there, Sister Laura. There's a thirst out there to get beyond Trump leading us to Civil War number 2.
All right. When it comes down to Trump leading us to Civil War, all right. Let's just address this. All right, this is unnecessary fear. People are already on edge as it is. But this whole idea, okay, proof, how are we going to get to a civil war? How are we going to get there? I mean, right now, the realistic war that I see happening and playing out is this first escalation in Ukraine. This ridiculous conflict that's happening between Israel and Palestine. So much unnecessary forever wars taking place until one day I think somebody's going to see a shiny red button that says nuke on it, pushes it, and says, gee, I wonder what I just did. That's the real reality of a global conflict. That's something that can happen. And of course, you got war profiteers who are more than happy to earn more and more profit, happy to have further conflicts, keep on instigating just how much further we could push it till we get to that sequel we've all been waiting for, World War III. But let's talk about civil war and Trump going to do it. No, look, the reason why Trump has a following is because unlike the Democrats or Bernie Sanders, and yes, I got to throw out third parties here because third parties, you've had ample opportunity to capitalize, especially after 2016, to build your infrastructure necessary to actually, I don't know, maybe be a force in American politics. Trump kept his political movement together. Trump kept his followers together. He didn't let it go. Why do you think he's fighting so hard, especially during this Republican primary? And no, he's not showing up to the debates, but the purpose of those debates were really to see who could control the MAGA movement. Because, DeSantis, Nikki Haley, Chris Christie, and to the extent even Vivek, they all want to control that political movement. They all want to be the next thing in charge of the Republican Party, but Republican voters made it clear that they want Donald Trump. And while I am not a fan of the Republican Party, and I'm not going to vote Republican, I'm sure as hell not going to vote Democrat, it is understandable why Republican voters would want to vote for Donald Trump. But this talk about civil war, no, it's a little more complicated than that.
Or Biden leading us to World War number 3. We know that both candidates cannot represent the best of America. My candidacy is about what? Introducing America to the best of itself. That's Martin King, that's Fannie Lou Hamer, that's Rabbi Heschel, that's Edward Said, that's Dorothy Day. That's the best of America. Where is that best when it comes to presidential politics? Why do we end up with this mediocrity and mendacity and even criminality? That's a very important question that all fellow citizens ought to try to come to terms with.
Well, it's pretty strong words about how you think both of these candidates might actually fare in the long run and talking about the best of the country. But there is the notion you are not yet on the ballot for all 50 states. Do you think that there is a
That's
trajectory where you, in fact, could be to bring your ideas to the greater public and in a general election?
Oh, I'll definitely be on ballot for probably 95, not 98%. You know,
Okay, that's a bold statement. I gotta take this down here for a second because look, as much as I do like the idea of third parties and independents being on the ballot, being on the debate stage, you got to have that follow through, and you have to have the hunger to do it. All right, you're on the Alaskan ballot. That's great. You got to get on the other 49 states now too, and each state is different. And just using my state for example, Illinois, at all levels, it is a very corrupt state. It has a lot of problems, a lot of issues. No, there's no such thing as a perfect state, but I got to be very clear on this one. All right. For a third party candidate, an independent candidate is extremely difficult. Very difficult. And I can imagine what it's like for other states that are maybe far more stricter, maybe on par with Illinois. But in order to make this happen, you have to have more of a ground-based appeal. You have to start getting out there more. And while I am impressed seeing third-party candidates actually make it on mainstream media, the disappointment that I have is that the infrastructure isn't there. The planning should have been done in 2020 at the earliest, right there. It really actually third parties should have been building more after 2016. But hey, it is what it is, unfortunately. But it's just not there to where it could really gain too much of an impact, and they have to start upping up their game. Truly, they do. And this whole fear of Biden being taken out by Donald Trump, this whole fear of Trump somehow is going to destroy America, and everyone's going to be asking third-party candidates to drop out. My fear is, my concern is, let me be clear on that, is that a lot of third-party candidates will bend the knee and say, okay, yeah, you're right. Let's drop out because we got to help out the Democrats beat Trump. There's a reason why people are being burnt out by electoral politics. And we have to have serious people running who understand the severity of the situation at hand. I want to play this next video here because, hey, look, discussing Biden's difficult task of satisfying his different coalitions for 2024. If Jill Stein wasn't there, Hillary Clinton probably would have won Michigan. Or maybe she had been there. Let's play it.
Jeannie, though, when you look at Michigan, how does the president rationalize that he's losing some rank and file favorability when it comes to union workers?
Yeah, it's really difficult, I think, for him to understand because he has been selling himself as the strongest union labor president we've ever had, the first to walk the picket line. And of course, his major opponent, Donald Trump, went to a non-union shop during that strike. So it's got to be really frustrating for him. But I do think even bigger or equally as troubling for him has got to be the numbers with African Americans, suburban women, and young people 18 to 34. And, I just look at those young people. He needs them to come out. He needs African Americans and suburban women to win in places like Michigan and Pennsylvania. If he doesn't have them, in addition to the union folks, he has a big challenge on his hand. And that's why what's happening in Congress with immigration is so troubling for him, because if he gives away too much to Republicans, he's going to lose those progressives who are already frustrated about the Israel-Hamas war. And for young people, of course, student loans. So being an incumbent is never easy. And he's got a huge challenge on his hand in a place like Michigan, trying to balance all these competing claims and coalitions.
He absolutely does, because Michigan, remember, Hillary Clinton lost by
it was just over 10,000 votes, right?
10,704 votes.
Remarkable.
So Jill Stein wasn't there. Potentially she would have won
Right.
Michigan.
Or maybe if she had been there, and by that I mean Hillary Clinton.
Yes, that's right.
Oh, my God. Corporate media never change. Never change indeed. So what can we take away from this? Well, first of all, those the first video that I played of all the women being asked about how they would vote third party or would they do it. When you have a couple saying, yes, I would consider it, that's becoming the norm. Now, the problem is first impressions are last impressions, because I think Americans are expecting perhaps a third party to really be up there, or either that be on par with the Democrats or Republicans. But the issue is infrastructure, and there are many state and federal laws that prevent third parties from having the power that we see the Democrats and Republicans have. And at this point, I am happy to see as many candidates there are out there. The issue is there follow through, and what happens the day after election night? Who is going to continue building relations with voters? And if one of them, or perhaps maybe a handful of them, maybe were to win one electoral college vote, something of that nature. Now, that's a high order. That's a tall order right there. If that's the case, it does bring up more people to look into alternative third parties. But then what comes afterwards? Because there has to be level-headed leadership and organization necessary to keep people engaged. And if that doesn't happen, the one thing that we have to do is maintain citizen ballot initiatives and fight for it, and call for the abolition of all political parties. To quote Jesse Ventura when asked about third parties, a lot of people were asking him to run as a Green Party candidate in 2020. And Jesse Ventura was very successful in his campaign for governor. As soon as he was on the debate stage, he owned the Democratic candidate and the Republican candidate, and he won. That was something unheard of in American politics, where a third-party candidate beat both the Democrat and the Republican. That's fantastic news. I applaud that. I salute that. But what did Jesse Ventura recently say? I would be against a third-party or fourth-party candidate because guess what? If third parties or fourth parties or any party happens, instead of a two-headed monster, we have a multi-headed monster. We have to call for the abolition of all political parties and get money out of politics. Otherwise, nothing will change. And folks, don't let people fear you or put fear into you about Donald Trump or him starting a civil war or anything of that nature. Look, there's a reason why Trump is popular. He kept his political movement together. He's still able to resonate with his voters. And no, this is not an endorsement of Trump. But my job on this show is to give an analysis and commentary about what's happening in current events. And Trump has been successful in maintaining his organization. Trump has been successful with his campaign. I mean, with all the legal issues, any other candidate, they would have dropped out. He didn't. And third parties have to start upping their game in order to be taken seriously, especially as we go into 2024, because there's going to be more pressure put on them by corporate media to drop out or endorse Biden. And that's something I don't look forward on reporting on or talking about, because I'm going to rage out so bad because I expected more from third parties, and yet I constantly keep on getting disappointed. I like the idea that third parties are being covered by corporate media, but it always goes down to the same of, are you viewed as a spoiler? Aren't you afraid of Trump? Like, again, spoiler and Trump questions, throw them in a dumpster. They're all the same. Here's looking forward to 2024.